Hey guys, we're getting so close to the end of the semester. We don't have a lot of time to spend on this next story, The Interlopers. And in order to make it a little easier for you, I decided to preview the story. I know it's likely only a few of you guys are actually going to see this, but it will be a tremendous advantage to those of you who do. So let me get right to sharing my screen. Okay, so here we are, The Interlopers story preview. The Interlopers is written by a guy named Saki. That's his pen name. I forget his real name. And he is the master of the surprise ending, and this story is no exception. So let's get right into the preview, and we are going to start with the characters. So the two characters, really the only two characters in the whole story, are Ulrich von Gradwitz. It's not Gradwitz, it's Gradwitz. Ulrich von Gradwitz and Georg Znaeum. Okay, so they're from the Eastern Europe, basically. All right, Ulrich von Gradwitz and Georg Znaeum. Now, as the story starts, they are bitter enemies. So, why are they bitter enemies? Well, back in the times of their grandfathers, or maybe even farther back, they had a land dispute. And so their two parcels of land border one another. And there was a place right on the border that both families claimed ownership of. Well, as it turns out, they went to court in the years past, and Ulrich von Gradwitz's family won. So the land was awarded to them. But Georg Znaeum and his ancestors never acquiesced to that decision. In other words, they never accepted that decision. So on this particular night, these guys are out in that disputed piece of land. Ulrich von Gradwitz is the legal owner, and he is basically hunting for Georg Znaeum and his men, who he thinks are poaching on the land. In other words, they're hunting on his land. Now, what makes the present moment even worse is the fact that they grew up hating each other. Like reasonable men might have been able to figure out a solution to this dispute, some kind of compromise, but not these guys. They grew up hating each other. And so they are ready to kill one another that night. So as it happens in the story, they see each other. They come face to face. They're standing right next to a very large beech tree. They're standing face to face. They both have the opportunity to fire on the other one, but neither man can pull the trigger. Now, in the story, it tells why neither man is able to pull the trigger, and I want you to read the details of that. However, I will say that people who grow up in a civilized society don't just automatically commit murder without thinking about it, or without talking about it, or whatever. So they're face to face, they want to shoot each other, but that restraint of their upbringing and their civilization prevent them from firing on one another. All right, so that's pretty bad. However, that's all background. That's not the conflict. The conflict starts in the next second. The big tree falls on them, and both men find themselves trapped underneath the beech tree. Neither one can move. They're injured, they're bloody, and they're trapped. Well, while they are there, trapped, they start talking to each other. And Ulrich von Gradwitz says, well, that's what you get for poaching on someone else's land. And then Georg Znaeum says, no, I'm on my own land. And one of them finally says, well, I've got a lot of men out here with me tonight. So if they find me first, they're going to lift the tree off me, and they're just going to plop it right down on you. Well, the other one, I think Ulrich von Gradwitz starts it. The other one, Znaeum, says, oh yeah, okay, well, I have men out here too. And if my men find me first, they're gonna rescue me and plop the tree right back on you. Okay, so we really have kind of a double conflict here. We first have a man versus nature. Both men are pinned under the tree, but then they're threatening each other as well. So we have man versus man as well. Both things are true. Now, if you had to pick one that was the stronger of the two, I would pick man versus man, because they start out with that kind of thing, and the tree just happens to pin them together in the same place. But we don't have to be limited to one. It's really both. So as they're talking and thinking and waiting for their men to come, Ulrich von Gradwitz starts to have a change of heart. He can move his arm a little bit, so he starts looking in his pockets for his wine flask. He takes a little bit of a drink from the wine flask. It warms him up, it makes him feel better, and it lifts his spirits. And he starts thinking that even though Georg Znaeum is an enemy, you can still be kind and compassionate to an enemy. So he offers Znaeum a drink from his flask. And then, as a result of that, he starts to think about how crazy and foolish this land dispute was, and he decides to offer Georg Znaeum his friendship. Well, at first, Georg refuses. He says, I would never drink with an enemy. But then both of them start talking and thinking about how people would react to their new friendship. There is never in anybody's lifetime has there ever been a von Gradwitz and a Znaeum that were friends with one another. People would marvel at that. And one of the men, I think it's Georg Znaeum, talks about the fact that they could do whatever they want and have no interlopers. Now you'll notice the title of the story is The Interlopers, so that becomes important. And basically what an interloper is someone who butts into your business without you asking them. So someone who involves themselves in a situation without being asked or invited to be involved. All right. Now, this whole interlopers things, I think, gives us a little bit of insight into the characters. Because over time, people begin to get really stubborn. If they think people are pressuring them to do something, they really dig in and resist it, and they fight. And I think the insight we get is that, you could probably infer that over the years, many people have probably tried to mediate this dispute. But the more they tried, the more the outsiders or the interlopers tried to get involved, the more they just resisted. As a result of that, thinking that, Georg also has a change of heart and accepts Ulrich's offer of friendship. Now, each of them secretly wishes his own men would get there first so that he can act on the new offer of friendship. And what Ulrich von Gradwitz said, he said in his offer of friendship, he says, well, you can do whatever you're going to do, but if my men get here first, I'm going to make them save you first as a real show that my intentions are good here. And then Georg Znaeum thinks that he will do the same. If his men get there first, they'll save Ulrich first. So each of them secretly wishes that their men get there first so they can show that they mean what they say. All right, and that brings us to this point right here. In this story, we have an omniscient narrator. Now, omniscient means all-knowing. So we have an all-knowing narrator. And the key feature of an omniscient narrator is that they know the private thoughts and feelings of all the characters in the story. So the advantage of the omniscient narrator in this particular instance is that we know that each man is telling the truth and that they really have had a change of heart and they really do want to be friends. Because let's face it, both of these men have motivation to lie right now, right? Because they threatened each other that if my men get here first, they're going to kill you. Well, they could be hedging their bets a little bit in case the other guy's men got here first. So both of these guys have a strong motivation to lie. But the advantage we get from the omniscient narrator is we know that both men are telling the truth. Remember that. Pretty sure that's on the test. And you heard it from me first. All right, now, whose men arrived first? You'll have to read that for yourself. And remember what I said about Saki. He is the master of the surprise ending. Okay, guys, I hope this story preview provides a little bit of framework and context so you can understand what you're reading. I love this story. Two stubborn old guys trapped as a result of their own stubbornness. It's a good lesson to an old guy like me. Okay, guys, good luck.